how did you guys get into the
Well,
storage?
Anderson, actually, for 15 or 20 years, I was a top-ranked international male escort.
Storage Wars turned a simple idea into a massive hit. And then everything around it started to unravel. When Storage Wars exploded in popularity, millions watched buyers gamble on abandoned units, turning trash into treasure overnight. But behind the success came lawsuits, cast exits, controversies, and questions about how real the show actually was. Over time, the version fans loved began to change, and not in the way anyone expected. So what really happened behind the scenes on Storage Wars? And where are the cast members who made it a phenomenon today? Join us as we uncover what happened to Storage Wars and why it's not the same show anymore. How the show started and what made it explode? The idea behind Storage Wars was not invented by a television executive sitting in a conference room. It grew out of an existing industry that had been operating quietly for decades before anyone put a camera on it. When renters stop paying for their storage units and cannot be located, the contents are auctioned off under the California Self-Service Storage Facility Act, which governs these sales and who can participate. Professional buyers had been attending these auctions and making money from them long before A&E showed up with lights and a crew. What the show did was take that existing world and find the people in it who were interesting enough to build a television format around. The original core cast was carefully chosen for the dynamic they would create when placed in competition with each other. It had Dave Hester, Daryl Sheets, Barry Weiss, and Brandy Passante, and Jared Schultz, a young couple from Orange County who had started buying units together to stock their thrift store, bringing a more grounded energy and a very specific kind of bickering that audiences immediately recognized and responded to. The show hit 4.5 million viewers during Season 2, making it the most watched program in A&E history at that time. That number represented something significant about what the format was doing emotionally for its audience. It was not just a show about finding things, it was a show about risk and reward, about the specific anxiety of not knowing what you are paying for, and about the very human pleasure of watching other people either strike it rich or get stuck with a unit full of broken furniture and old magazines. And then, at the height of its popularity, the man who had been positioned as the show's villain did something that threatened to bring the whole thing down: the lawsuit and the scandal. Dave Hester was the buyer the audience loved to hate. His catchphrase, a drawn-out and deliberately obnoxious version of the word "yoop" that he shouted every time he placed a bid, became one of the most recognized verbal tics in reality television. He was strategic, confrontational, and made no effort to be likable, which paradoxically made him one of the most compelling people to watch on the show. In December 2012, at the peak of the show's popularity, DCVE was let go from Storage Wars by A&E. His response was to file a lawsuit against the network, which became one of the most widely covered stories in reality television history. In the lawsuit, he alleged that Storage Wars was not a genuine competition between real buyers, but a heavily staged production in which items were planted in storage units before filming began, in which cast members were paid regardless of what they found, and in which scenes were constructed to generate drama that would not have occurred naturally. He specifically alleged that production had arranged for a female cast member to have plastic surgery in order to increase the show's appeal, a claim that was denied. The lawsuit put A&E in the position of either proving their show was real or settling the matter quietly. The network denied the allegations. The case dragged through the legal system for years. Hester eventually returned to the show in Season 5 after the lawsuit was resolved, which raised its own questions about the nature of the conflict and its resolution. He continued on the show through Season 12 before departing again, and was absent for the following seasons. Whether the items in Storage Wars lockers were ever genuinely planted is something that has never been proven conclusively one way or the other. But the lawsuit introduced a layer of skepticism about the show's authenticity that it never fully recovered from among viewers who cared about such things. What happened to Hester personally during his years away from the show was considerably more serious than any television dispute. He suffered a hemorrhagic stroke in 2018, caused by high blood pressure and sleep apnea, while he was living what he described as a semi-retired life. A hemorrhagic stroke is one of the most serious kinds, involving bleeding in the brain rather than a blockage of blood flow, and the recovery process is typically long and requires relearning basic functions. He survived, went through extensive therapy, and eventually recovered enough to return to auctions and to his auctioneering business. He is set to return to Storage Wars for Season 16, which premiered on June 7, 2025. The A&E promotional materials showed him attempting to attend an auction incognito before eventually dropping the disguise and shouting, "Yoop!" to the shock of the other buyers, which is exactly the kind of dramatic re-entrance the show knows how to stage. His return after years of health difficulties represents one of the more genuinely compelling arcs in the show's recent history. In between television appearances, he runs his own auctioneering and consulting firm and has published ebooks sharing business advice from his years in the industry. But that's just about Dave Hester, the villain. What about the relationship that fell apart on and off screen, and that exposed a past no one would have guessed? Brandy Passante and Jared Schultz's relationship drama. Of all the cast dynamics that Storage Wars built its identity around, none was more central than the relationship between Brandy Passante and Jared Schultz. They came into the show together as a couple running a thrift store called Now and Then in Orange County, California. They had 2 children together, a son, Cameron, and a daughter, Peyton. They were introduced on screen as husband and wife, though they had never married. They bickered constantly, disagreed loudly, and occasionally made decisions that baffled everyone watching, which made them feel more real than almost anyone else on the show. Their combined arc across the series is a complete story, a couple building something together, straining under the pressure of television and business and family simultaneously, eventually opening a second store location in Long Beach that struggled from its first day, and eventually closed, seeing their primary Orange County store also close in early 2016, and then experiencing the kind of slow unraveling that happens when 2 people stay in proximity to something that has stopped working long after the point when they should have separated. The couple split in 2018. The specific circumstances of the split became public in a way that went beyond standard celebrity breakup coverage. TMZ captured footage of Jared Schultz appearing to physically shove Brandy on more than one occasion, incidents that Brandy described as part of a pattern of behavior from which she needed to leave. She filed a police report regarding at least one incident. Jared addressed it publicly by denying that the situation was as it had been characterized, but the footage existed and had been seen widely. In 2021, Brandy got a tattoo on her arm that simply read, "Free." She shared the image publicly and did not explain it in detail, but the context was not difficult to read. She had declined to return to the show after the Season 12 hiatus, but eventually came back for Season 15 as a solo cast member without Jared, and is part of the Season 16 cast as well. Jared did not return to the show after Season 13, and has maintained a considerably lower public profile since the split. He has been reported to be running a bar and grill and still operating in the reselling world, but has largely stayed out of the media attention that Brandy has continued to receive through her ongoing involvement with the show. Their spin-off series, Brandy and Jared Married to the Job, which aired 8 episodes on A&E in 2014, documented the pressures of trying to balance family life with a business and a television career simultaneously. Watching it now, knowing what happened afterward, gives the series an uncomfortable quality that the show itself could not have anticipated when it was produced. Now, let's move on to a wealthy man who simply appeared on the show for the fun of it. Barry Weiss, the collector who keeps coming back. Barry Weiss is the character in Storage Wars who most defies easy categorization. He is a lifelong antiques collector and dealer who had spent decades buying and selling before A&E approached him. His friend Tom Beers, who was both the show's executive producer and its narrator, suggested that Barry join the show. Weiss had never bought a storage unit in his life before signing on. What he brought to the show was a genuine eccentricity that felt entirely unperformable, which is to say, it clearly was not performed. He showed up to auctions in different outrageous vehicles every week, including motorcycles, custom cars, and arrangements that defied description. He spent money on items that interested him purely as a collector, rather than as a businessman, which produced some of the show's most memorable moments when his instincts paid off, and others when they did not. He left the show after Season 4 in June 2013, citing a desire to do other things and a spin-off of his own, Buried Treasure, which A&E produced and ran for 8 episodes before being canceled. He then disappeared from Storage Wars for nearly 7 years before returning for Season 14 in 2021. He has been a regular presence on the show since that return and is part of the Season 15 cast. Outside of the show, he is estimated to have a net worth of around $10 million, built from decades in the antiques and collectibles business before television found him. He is also listed as the official spokesperson and brand ambassador for Sherwood Valley Casino in California, a role that suits a man whose public persona is built on a genuine love of gambling on the contents of an unknown storage unit. If Barry Weiss's story came as a shocker, wait till you find out about the rest of the original cast. Daryl Sheets, Dan and Laura Dotson, and the rest of the original cast. Daryl Sheets, nicknamed The Gambler, was one of the most emotionally compelling cast members in the show's early run. He gambled big and made dramatic finds, including some of the most valuable lockers in the show's history. He brought his son, Brandon Sheets, onto the show, creating a father-son dynamic that gave his segments a personal warmth alongside the competitive drama. After the show, Sheets went through a significant personal transformation that had nothing to do with storage units. He embarked on a major weight loss journey with the Nutrisystem program and lost approximately 40 pounds. He connected the experience publicly to the same philosophy that drove his auction strategy, saying that hope was having $200 to buy a locker and a chance to change your life, and that the same hope had motivated him to pursue his health. He returned for Season 15 of the show and has remained connected to the Storage Wars world. Brandon Sheets, who appeared with his father through Season 9 and was cut before Season 10 as part of what the network described as budget constraints, also returned for Season 15 alongside his father. Their dynamic remains one of the warmer elements of a show that is more naturally built on competition and conflict. Dan and Laura Dotson are the auctioneers who have been a constant institutional presence on Storage Wars throughout its run. Dan is the primary auctioneer, driving bidding with the rapid-fire patter that characterizes professional auctioneering. Laura serves as the financial closer, ending every auction with her signature instruction to the winning bidder: "Don't forget to pay the lady." Dan suffered an aneurysm during Season 5 production, requiring a substitute auctioneer to fill in temporarily. A physical fight between both Dotsons and Dave Hester during Season 8 required another substitution. Despite these interruptions, they have remained the show's anchoring presence through 15 seasons and into the 16th. They also run American Auctioneers, their private auctioneering company that conducts public auctions across California, and they own StorageAuctions.net, a platform that manages storage auctions across the United States and Canada. Their television profile has translated directly into a business that extends well beyond the show itself. Their television success didn't just build recognition, it created a full-scale business empire that continues to thrive far beyond the cameras. But as that foundation expanded, the show itself was also evolving, bringing in new faces who would reshape the dynamic in unexpected ways. Ivy Calvin, Renee, Casey Nzota, and the newer generation. Ivy Calvin joined the show in Season 3 and brought a background that was genuinely unlike anyone else in the cast. He had played professional football and competed in MMA before transitioning into buying storage units and eventually retail through his store, Grandma's Attic, which operates in Acton, California. The combination of athletic discipline and business instinct made him a compelling presence on screen, and he became a full-time cast member from Season 5 onward. He returns for Season 16 alongside his sons, which is a generational development that mirrors what the show did with Daryl and Brandon Sheets in earlier seasons. The Grandma's Attic shop operates on weekend hours and through online sales, giving Calvin a retail business that the show has helped sustain through the audience it connects him to. Renee and Casey Nzota joined the show in Season 4 as the Bargain Hunters, a couple with a thrift store background and a systematic approach to buying that contrasted with the more instinct-driven strategies of some of the other buyers. Renee is originally from Germany and brings a European sensibility to American bargain culture, giving his appearances a slightly different flavor. They own the Bargain Hunters thrift store in Poway, California, and have leveraged their television profile into a YouTube channel with nearly 200,000 subscribers, with individual videos pulling millions of views. Their channel has given them a direct connection with their audience that extends beyond what the show itself provides, a model several of the cast members have tried to replicate. Now, to the most important question: where does the show stand today? What happened to the show itself and where it stands now? Storage Wars went on hiatus after Season 12 concluded in January 2019. The network made no immediate announcement about renewal, and for more than 2 years the show existed in the kind of ambiguous limbo that feels like cancellation without the official word. Cast members moved on. The audience moved on. And then, in March 2021, A&E announced that Season 13 would happen. The returning show looked noticeably different from the version that had gone on hiatus. Brandy and Jared were not present as a couple. The format had been adjusted to reflect a cast that had been through real changes during the intervening years. Barry Weiss came back for Season 14, his first appearance since leaving after Season 4, which gave the returning show something to celebrate. The show has continued producing seasons since then, with Season 15 airing 24 episodes and concluding in August 2023. Season 16 premiered on June 7, 2025, introducing the show's most significant format change to date. Episodes now run for a full hour, rather than the 30-minute format the show had used for all 15 previous seasons. The longer format allows the production more time to develop individual stories within each auction, giving the found items more context and the buyer dynamics more room to breathe. A&E Head of Programming, Elaine Frontaine-Bryant, described the expansion as taking a deeper dive into the high-stakes world of storage auctions and offering fans the series on a larger scale than ever before. The Season 16 cast includes Brandy Passante, Dave Hester, making his return after years away, Kenny Crossley, Ivy Calvin with his sons, and Renee and Casey Nazoda, and newer additions including Lisa Delarios and Dusty Riach. The Dotsons continue as auctioneers. The combination of returning original faces and the expanded format represents the most deliberate attempt the show has made to reinvent itself while holding on to what made it matter in the first place. Whether Season 16 captures anything close to the audience the show commanded at its peak in 2012 remains a legitimate question. The landscape of reality television has changed enormously since then, with streaming platforms and social media content competing for the attention that cable shows once monopolized. What has not changed is the basic premise, which is still as simple and as compelling as it was on the first day. A locked door, a room full of unknown things, and a group of people willing to bet real money on what might be inside. Were you a Storage Wars fan from the beginning, or did you come to it later in the run? And are you planning to watch Season 16 with Dave Hester back in the mix and the new hour-long format? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.